गंधार्विक गिरिधारी शिशि राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जाय। श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मरन मोहन जू की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपार शुतर शत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपार शुतर शत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपार शुतर शत शिशुमार भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपार शुतर शत शिशुमार भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपार शुतर शत शिशुमार भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्ट महाभागवत शिल गोरक्षरस बाबाजी महाराज की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्ट शिल सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम शिल जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जाय। श्री रूपानु गौरी गुरु वर्ग की जाय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शारद गोसाई प्रभु की जाय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंद आदि शिकोर पार्षद वृंद की जाय। नाम जय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जाय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौरमंडल ब्रजमंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जाय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जाय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाय की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौरव जय। श्री भक्ति तत्व विवेक की जय। जय श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकायै तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। श्रीसिद्धान्तसरस्वतीति विदितो गौरीयगौर्वन्वये भातो भानुरिव प्रभातगगने योगोरसङ्कीर्तनाय मायाभारतीमिङ्गिलोदरगतानुधृत्य जीवानिमान् कृष्णप्रेमसुधाब्धिगाहनसुखं प्रदात् प्रभुं तं भजे। वन्दे भक्तिविनोदं श्रीगौरशक्तिस्वरूपकं भक्तिशास्त्रज्ञसम्राजान् राधारससुधानिधिं नमो भक्तिविनोदाय सच्चिदानन्दनामिने गौरशक्तिस्वरूपाय रूपानुगवराय ते श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। वृषभानुसुतान्वितवामतनुं यमुनातटनागरनन्दसुतं मुरलीकलगीतविनोरपरं भज गोद्रुमकाननकुञ्जविदुं स्मर गौरगदाधर केलिकलां भव गौरगदाधर पक्षचर श्रीनुगौरगदाधरचारुकथं भज गोद्रुमकाननकुञ्जविदुम्। तवैवास्मि तवैवास्मि na jivami tvaya vina. Itti vigyaya devi tvang nayamang charanantikam. Bhaktya vihina aparada lakshay kshiptashtakamadittaranga madhe kripa maitvam sharanam prapanna vrinde namaste charanaravindam. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams, dear devotees. Nri Hari Prabhu, Bhavatarani Mataji, Sarveshwari Mataji, Nitai Mukeshji, Ganga Mataji, Raseshwari Mataji, Prajumna Prabhu, Mantramurti Mataji, Shubhananda Prabhu, and I'm guessing Indira Mataji is there, and I don't know who else. If you write a comment, I'll see your name. Haribol Gaur Priya, uh, Didi, Haribol. Um, Also, pranams to all devotees watching in the future. Haribo. So we are continuing our reading of Bhakti-tattva-viveka by Śrīla Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. In the first chapter, he explains the general characteristics of bhakti. He explained this verse by Śrīla Rupa Goswami, Anyabhilashita Shunyam. Then in the second chapter, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains he gave an analysis on the semblance of bhakti abhas. That was divided into two, pratibimba and chaya, but we're not going to go through it again because we've already gone through it many times. And now, today we are in chapter 3. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur now explains the 6 symptoms that manifest like first 2 symptoms manifest in the stage of sadhan, the next 2 in the stage of bhav, and then the last 2 on the stage of prem. So they are kleshagni shubhada. That means bhakti removes all distress, all kinds of klesh. And shubhada, it bestows all auspiciousness. And then the next 2 are moksha laghuta krit. It makes liberation seem completely insignificant. And sudurlabha, it is very rarely attained. And then the next 2, sandrananda visheshatma, is it enables one to experience condensed bliss. And Shri Krishna Karshini, it attracts Shri Krishna. So these are the 6 symptoms that we're going to be reading about. Yesterday we read about the first 2, Kleshagni and Shubhada. Oh, and Haribo, Krishna Murari Prabhu and Archana Mataji, Haribo. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Yeah, so let's see. So Kleshagni, Bhakti Devi completely removes all the distress, all the klesh of those who take shelter of unalloyed devotion. And then klesh is of 3 types. There's sin, pap, sins in their seed form, pap bij, it's like the tendency to commit, and then ignorance, avidya. And these sins, this pap, is further divided into 2. There is prarabdha, that's fructified sins. In other words, sins that one's are, yeah. But it's interesting, he says sins. Anyways, there's fructified, that which one is undergoing currently in this lifetime. And then there's aprarabdha, which is waiting for the person, which is in store for him. It's interesting how he mentions how these are both sins are prarabdha and aprarabdha because it's also just karma. Anything that we do is prarabdha and aprarabdha. Anyways, never mind. Sorry. All right. And then he gives evidence from the scriptures about how only bhakti, he says like gyan can remove aprarabdha karma, but only bhakti can destroy both prarabdha karma and aprarabdha karma. That which is in store, with that which one is undergoing right now, and that which is waiting for him in the next life. And then he gives evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam and Padma Puran. And then, um, and also how this pop beach can only be destroyed by bhakti, and also how avidya, this ignorance, can be destroyed by gyan somewhat, but but it's not permanent, right? I think that's what he mentions. But yeah, without taking shelter of bhakti, a sadhak will certainly fall down. And then he gives this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. And yeah, then he explains Shubhada. How does he explain Shubhada? Bhakti is auspicious by nature. Srila Rupa Goswami says, scholars define true auspiciousness as possessing love for all living entities and becoming the object of affection of all living entities, as well as possessing all good qualities, happiness, and other similar auspicious achievements. So that's how Srila Rupa Goswami defines Shubhada. I mean, these are the different types of Shubha, auspiciousness. What are they? One possesses love for all living entities and becomes the object of affection for all living entities, possesses all good qualities, happiness, and so on. Although there's a whole article by Srila Bhakti-Vedanta Keshav Goswami Maharaj about Jiva, Jiva Doya and Jiva Prem or something like that. Anyways, never mind. I'm not going to get into that now. But okay, so I thought something that we could do today is instead of moving on to the next four symptoms of bhakti, are the attributes that arise. But I was thinking that maybe we could read from Madhurya Kadambini about um, Kleshakani and Shubhada because it goes into a lot more depth here. Yeah, like Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains Klesha as avidya, asmita, um, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh. So and then after that there's the pop bij and um actually he divides it into four, not three. So there's pop, bij, kut, and yeah, and or ruda and avidya. Um anyway, so it's a very interesting explanation and yeah, I thought maybe we can do that today. And then tomorrow we will read about the last four symptoms. I think it's good to be thorough. So, yeah. Okay, so this is, I think it's yeah, it's chapter 3, text 2. This is the intrinsic nature of sadhan bhakti and uttama bhakti. So this is the Bhav Anuvad of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's words here. Bhakti, as sadhan bhakti, appears in the field of the senses. That is, the body, mind, and words of the sadhak jiva. Such bhakti, due to being untainted by karma, gyan, and so forth, is pure. Moreover, the intrinsic nature of such bhakti, like that of a wish-fulfilling vine, a kalpalata, is to bestow all kinds of fruits. Despite this, the only person who takes shelter of this wish-fulfilling vine of bhakti is that greatly fortunate bee-like person whose sole vow is to exclusively drink the nectar of bhakti ras and abandon the hankering for all other kinds of rewards, except service to Bhagavan. Such a fortunate soul is likened to a bumblebee, because he vows to maintain his life by drinking honey from this vine, and from nowhere else. The fundamental life force of this vine of bhakti is the continual rendering of service to one's worshipful Lord. Sri Bhagavan, in a manner that is favorable for his well-being, so the fundamental life force of this vine of bhakti is the continually rendering of service to one's worshipful Lord, Sri Bhagavan, in a manner that is favorable for for Bhagavan's well-being and full of affection for him. The first two leaves of the vine of bhakti, Kleshagni and Shubhada. Haribo Vidyalala Sadidi and Fuleshwari Didi. And Lola Mataji, Haribo. And Ajay Krishna Babu, Haribo. One second, this thing to drink some water. Okay, so the first two leaves. By its touch, this bhakti lata, like a touchstone, gradually dispels the iron-like quality of the senses' material tendencies and transforms the senses into a state of transcendence, comparable with the most purified gold. Meanwhile, fresh sprouts appear. When fully manifest, these sprouts are known as the two leaves of sadhan bhakti. One leaf is kleshagni, that which destroys all misery, and the other is shubhada, that which bestows auspiciousness. And these two leaves continually grow more and more and more as one progresses in sadhan. Rag bhakti and Vaidhi bhakti. The upper side of these two unfurling leaves of sadhan bhakti is characterized by the gleaming softness of devotion impelled by greed, lobh. Sri Bhagavan has said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Yesham aham priyam atma sutascha. For my devotees, I am their beloved and their very soul, and like a son, I am the object of their affection. I am their friend, divine master, well-wisher, benefactor, and worshipful Lord. According to this and similar statements from Scripture, when the realm of devotion is softened by the purity of one's relationship with Krishna, it attains an excellence that brings it under the jurisdiction of a king named Rag, or ardent attachment, whose excellent realm is represented by the leaf's smooth upper surface. So the top of the leaf, the smooth side of the leaves is Rag. The underside of the two leaves is referred to in statements such as Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma. Therefore, O Parikshit, those who wish to be fearless forever should perform worship of Sri Hari, the Lord of all entities. That's Srimad Bhagavatam 2.1.5. This verse suggests that because such bhakti is characterized as being impelled by the demand and dictate of the scriptures, it is somewhat rough. And because such bhakti lacks a pure relationship with the Lord, like that of a beloved or a son, it is somewhat dull or inferior. For this reason, the realm of devotion represented by this underside of the leaf is under the jurisdiction of a different king named Vaidha, or regulation. In terms of the capacity to dispel suffering, kleshagnatva, and grant auspiciousness, shubhodattva, however, there is almost no difference between raga bhakti and Vaidhi bhakti. So raga bhakti and Vaidhi bhakti pretty much they are the same in dispelling suffering and granting auspiciousness. Okay, so now we're going to go over the first leaf, kleshagni. Now, 5 types of klesh, 5 types of misery. Klesh, misery, is of 5 types. Ignorance, avidya, false ego, asmita, passion for or attachment to material things, that's rag, hatred, dvesh, and absorption in worldly objects. So, avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh. Ignorance, false ego, passion for or attachment to material things, hatred, and absorption in worldly objects. Okay, so now this is my Srila Gurudev's commentary on these. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, this is the Piyush Varshini Vritti by my Gurudev Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Ṭhākura is discussing the 2 qualities of sadhan bhakti, kleshagni and shubhada. It has already been explained that both qualities are present in rag bhakti and vaidhi bhakti. But in that context, what is the meaning of klesh? What is the meaning of misery? And what is shubha? What is auspiciousness? In this text, the author expounds upon these points. Maharshi Patanjali has written in the 3rd aphorism of the Sadhan Pada of his book Yoga Darshan, Avidya Smita Rag Dvesha Bhinivesha Panchaklesha. Wow, so that actually comes from Patanjali. That means ignorance, false ego, attachment to material enjoyment, aversion to suffering, and material absorption. That's avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, and abhinivesh. These are the 5 different types of klesh, or misery. Being situated in the heart, they cause one to engage in either action, karma, or inaction, akarma. As a result, one attains one's destiny, the fruits of piety or impiety, which are happiness or distress, respectively. These 5 types of misery, these 5 types of klesh, are briefly described below. Okay, so avidya, ignorance. This means this is a state of consciousness in which one mistakes temporary objects as eternal, mistakes that which is impure as pure, mistakes unhappiness as happiness, and identifies the self with matter. This is called avidya, or ignorance. Avidya is at work when one considers impermanent things such as one's body, property, and possessions, spouse, children, pleasures, and wealth as permanent. When one considers the impure physical body comprised of blood, flesh, fat, bones, stool, and urine to be pure or enjoyable. And when one thinks that trivial mundane pleasures constitute happiness, when in fact the result is the fearsome cycle of birth and death, including punishment in hell and other such miseries. In other words, it is avidya to think that pleasure derived from mundane sense objects, which is uninterrupted suffering, is actual happiness. And to identify the physical body, its relations, and inanimate possessions as one's self. Now, asmita. Asmita means false ego. To wrongly assume that the cognitive power of visual perception, the darshan shakti, is completely identical with the inherent power to see, the drik shakti, is an example of asmita. In other words, asmita is the egotism or delusion of thinking in terms of I and mine. Okay, so asmita means thinking in terms of I and mine. Now, 3rd is rag, or desire, or attachment to the means by which one procures pleasure or removes distress. This is called rag. In other words, the yearning for more, even after obtaining one's desired object, is called raga. Now, 4th is dvesh. That means aversion to or hatred for the cause of distress. This is called dvesh. And lastly, abhinivesh. That means absorption, mundane absorption, to be strongly attached to one's body due to its being the basis for attaining worldly pleasures, and to be terrified of death is called abhinivesh.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Archana
Can I
Mataji.
interrupt?
Nope. Yes, of course. Yeah.
So this Avinivesh and and Raga, how could you distinguish between the two? Raga and Abhinivesh.
Yeah, I mean, all of these seem pretty similar to like some of these seem pretty similar. Like I was also trying to see what's the difference between avidya and asmita. Because that's, I mean, I guess there's a bit of a difference between avidya and asmita because one is you're mistaking one thing to be something else, but it's also avidya to identify the self as being the body. I mean, it's like, like that, and that, but that's also asmita. And then also with this rag and abhinivesh. Um, let's see. It says here, so this is raga is desire, right? And for yearning for more, even after obtaining one's desired object. And so I guess it's just more specific of like just wanting to accumulate more and more and more. And then abhinivesh is, abhinivesh is being attached to, yeah, completely absorbed and being attached to what we have and also being terrified of death. Maybe being terrified of death doesn't fall under raga, desire or something. But yeah, I do think these are kind of like, you know what I mean? There's some overlap within them. I don't
Abhinivesh.
know.
There is one verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhayam Dvitiya Abhiniveshatasya.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That refers to the fear of death.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Fear arises when one is completely absorbed in the um that which is separate from Bhagavan, right? That's yeah. Yeah. So now these are five types of klesh, five types of misery: avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh. And now there are another types. This is what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions in Bhakti-tattva-viveka. Um, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says pap, bij, and avidya, but Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur divides it into four. Let's see. So next, there are four stages of sin that are also integral to klesh. There's prarabdha pap, sins in the fructifying stage, meaning that the result of past sins has begun to manifest in the living entity's present body and is being endured by him. Then aprarabdha pap, that sins that will take time to fructify, that one will undergo in their next lifetime. And then there's ruda or kuta, um, that's sins that are about to become seeds, having remained in the subtle body of the jiva in the form of the impressions of past actions. And bij, that's sins of sinful desires that will eventually lead to the fructifying stage. And I think these four were explained in this verse from Padma Puran that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur quoted. Let's see. I remember seeing that. Anyways, is it this one? Yeah, here. This is from Padma Puran. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, now see how bhakti destroys aprarabdha sins. Aprarabdha, kuta, bija, and prarabdha. Okay. So now this is a commentary by my Srila Gurudev, Piyush Varshini Vritti. Furthermore, there are four types of sin, pap, which are also considered sources of misery. They are also considered klesh. There are prarabdha, aprarabdha, rudha, also known as kuta, and bija. Now they're going to be briefly described. First one, prarabdha pap. Of the accumulated sinful acts committed in previous births, Prarabdha is the portion for which one has begun to suffer in this birth. And aprarabdha. This refers to the unfructified accumulation of sins committed over the course of many lifetimes. One has not yet begun to suffer retribution for those misdeeds. In other words, the sinful reaction that currently lies dormant but is in store for us is called aprarabdha. Then rudha. This is also referred to as kuta, or sin in its subtle form. That is, it exists in the heart as the impressions of past actions. Rudha refers to those wrongdoings that eventually become seeds, bij, and in time sprouts and yields their own fruits. It is the totality of the fruits of aprarabdha. And then bij. This refers to sin that consists of desire and is thus the underlying cause of prarabdha. These seeds of desire remain concealed in the heart. In due course, by the will of Bhagavan, they manifest as prarabdha, forcing one to undergo their due results. Okay, so that's all clear, right? Now, careful thought is called for in this regard. The ignorance, the avidya that exists within those jivas who are averse to the absolute truth produces these desires. The avidya which produces these desires. To satisfy these desires, they have to take the body of a human, demigod, animal, and so forth. It's interesting, huh? Um, so because to satisfy all these desires, then one has to take body in one of these different forms. Human, demigod, animal, and so forth. This has been reoccurring since the beginning of time. Of these species, only the human form of life gives the jiva the facility to engage in fruitive activity, karma, and incur karmic reactions. Other forms of life, such as demigods and animals, are meant for experiencing the fruit of previous activities. There is much enjoyment in these various species, and therefore, whatever desires arise in such life forms are conducive to that particular type of enjoyment. Thus, along with the manifestation of their prarabdha karma, their desires are fulfilled. Even though desires arise in their heart, they do not accumulate to become seeds of further enjoyment. Only desires aroused in the human form of life are capable of retaining karma bij, or seeds that will result in new action. Considering this, we can infer that human beings are more proficient at desiring than enjoying. In
Hare Krishna,
essence,
Prabhu, but
yes,
is this desiring, like there's thousands of desires which cross the mind, right? Like,
yes.
so this desiring is different from what it's mentioned over here, isn't it? I mean, this desiring, proficient at desiring, more proficient at desiring is something like you are dwelling on that thought, on that desire, or isn't it that which is considered, or even a desire which is flashing by your mind is also considered?
I mean, there are different kinds of desires, right? But I wonder if it's referring to this. Is this referring specifically to, let's see. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's saying that ignorance is the cause for producing these desires, and there are like we like Ruda pop and Beach pop, like there's these are different forms of desires, right? Like these are different stages, I guess, right? Like Rudha or Kuta is like we're starting to those types of samskars and things that will begin to produce the seed of desire, right? And then there's the seed of desire, and then right, and so I think I don't know, uh, yeah, yeah, I don't know. Only desires
Maybe
aroused in
someone
the
can
yeah.
say if
Yeah.
they know someone in the group.
Yes, if anybody has anything to add. Only desires aroused in the human form of life are capable of remaining karma beach, are seeds that will result in new action.
Because I've heard somewhere that it's the desire which you dwell on, like it's like a very strong desire, then it becomes bija. But then, like, because there are thousands of desires crossing the mind, but they're just momentarily there and then they just disappear. Then, and sometimes we desire something wrong, and then we go back and we correct ourselves and say, we know we should not desire this. This is not correct. And then we could sometimes ask for forgiveness also, that how come such a desire came to my mind? Due to prarabdha or due to past, maybe some desire has come. But then we act upon it, and then act upon it in the sense we go back and we ask for forgiveness and we try to correct ourselves. So then that desire doesn't become a bija, right, Prabhu? Otherwise,
I mean,
what's the
I'm just this is just what I think, but like yeah, there's as we do different things and like that, then we get and different experiences and like that, then different desires come. Some stick, some desires that we really dwell on and we act upon, then they start to become a seed. And then like and then from that seed we do different things, like but the only way to remove any kind of desire is not just to will for it to be gone. The way to really remove, like we'll explain that the only way to fully remove these bij, these seeds of desires, and also the kut, the thing like before the seeds, the things that the only way to fully remove it is only through bhakti. Without bhakti, we're always going to be making new seeds of desire and start acting on them and all that. So bhakti is the only thing that can actually remove them, not just, feeling bad and like, oh, well, I made a mistake. I'm going to try better next time and like that. But really the only way to fully eradicate the seeds of desire is through bhakti.
okay? Thank you, Prabhu.
I don't know if that answers anything, but
Sarveshwari Mataji, she's saying something.
oh, yes. Yes, Sarveshwari Mataji. Yes.
I just come to my mind, because it's a very good point, that in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Karma Yoga, in the verse, from the verse 39, they talk about thus a man's pure consciousness is covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. And from there, they all target about all the lust, how to, that this is just this all they say how to conquer the lust that is destroying the purity, the affect our pure consciousness. So I was thinking like at this point that the Didi Archana Didi come up, it's like the man, the pure consciousness is covered by this eternal enemy that is the lust. That's the greed that pushes us to do all these sins. This will come to my mind.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much.
So, in essence, by sadhan bhakti, either rag bhakti or vaidhi bhakti, these five types of klesh, these five types of misery, avidya, asmita, etc., are fully destroyed, as is the klesh arising from the four types of sin, pap, such as prarabdha. Therefore, sadhan bhakti is called kleshagni, that which destroys all miseries. Also, the Padma Puran states, and this is the verse that Srila Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura quoted that we looked at. Aprarabdha phalam papam kutam bijam phalonmukam krame naiva praliyeta Vishnu bhakti ratatmanam. For those who with their life and soul have undeviating and exclusive attachment to devotion to Lord Vishnu, the four types of sins are completely destroyed in the following sequence. One, first, aprarabdha, the accumulated stock of sins that are lying dormant in a dormant condition. Then kut, those are sins that are about to produce seeds, which means that they are beginning to take shape as sinful desires. And then bij, those are seeds that have already that are already established as sinful desires. And lastly, prarabdha, fructified sins, are those. And then in Srimad Bhagavatam, Yat pada pankaja palasha vilasya bhaktya karmashayam gratitam gratayanti santa tadvanna riktamatayo yatayo piruddha sroto ganastamaranam bhajavasudevam. Srimad Bhagavatam 4:22-39. Did Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also quote that verse? Yes, he does. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in Bhakti-tattva-viveka, he says, the following verses from Padma Purana and Srimad Bhagavatam describe how bhakti eradicates avidya, or ignorance. And then he gives this verse here. So, Sri Sanat Kumar said to Maharaj Prithu, O king, the devotees of Bhagavan, simply by lovingly meditating on the effulgence shining forth from the petal-like toenails of his worshipful lotus feet, tear asunder the hard knot in the heart, which is formed by fruit of activity. The yogis seeking impersonal liberation, however, cannot break that knot, even though they control their senses. Therefore, O king, giving up the separate endeavor to control the senses, one should perform bhajan of Bhagavan Vasudev, he who is the shelter of all beings. In other words, false ego, asmita, and so forth, are the tendencies of ignorance. Okay, these are tendencies of ignorance, so I guess it's included within avidya. Asmita is included within avidya. Therefore, as ignorance is destroyed in the course of performing sadhan bhakti, the effects of ignorance are also easily and automatically destroyed. Sadhan bhakti also vanquishes all of one's prarabdha karma. That's the results that one is undergoing in this lifetime, or that's one currently undergoing. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:33-6 states, Yannamadeya shavananu kirtanad, yat pravanad, yat smaranad api kvachit, shvadopi sadya savanaya kalpate, kuta punaste bhagavanu darshanat. Shri Devahuti said to Bhagavan Kapila-dev, O Bhagavan, if even an untouchable who partakes of dog flesh hears or chants your name, your holy names, or if he once in a while offers obeisances to you or remembers you, even if carelessly, he is elevated to the worshipful status of a Brahman priest qualified to conduct soma yagyas. Those are fire sacrifices intended to invoke the nectar of the moon that is drunk only by demigods. What then is to be said of someone who has direct audience of you? For such a person, the human life is a complete success. Here it is stated that by uttering the names of Bhagavan, hearing narrations of his pastimes, remembering him, and so forth, even a dog-eating chandal becomes qualified to conduct such exalted fire sacrifices as the Soma Yagya. From this, it is understood that sadhan bhakti destroys even a person's fructified sin, prarabdha pap, as well as the fructified sin that determines one's birth in a low, ill-fortuned caste, such as that of a chandal. Fructified sin is not destroyed even by knowledge of the impersonal Brahma Gyan. Even at the stage of Jivan Mukta, emancipation in this life from false bodily identification, the Gyanis achieve actual liberation, mukti, only when the results of their past actions cease. However, the destruction of fructified sin, prarabdha pap, which is not possible even by knowledge of Brahma, is achieved easily by sadhan bhakti. The other types of sin, aprarabdha, kuta, and bija, so the other types of sin will therefore also surely be destroyed. What doubt can there be about this? And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also mentions this point here, that Gyan can destroy aprarabdha pap, that which is waiting in store for them in their next lifetimes. It can destroy all that pop, but it can't destroy the sins that one's undergoing right now. But bhakti can. So what to speak of that? Of course, then it could obviously destroy aparabdha, kuta, and beach. Okay, so that was the explanation of klesha, klesha gni. Oh, okay. Now we are going to hear the explanation of shubhada, the auspicious qualities bestowed by bhakti. On Hare Krishna, Pramila Didi, and Shasharamaji, Haribo, and Anadi Krishna Ru, and Gokuleshwari Didi. So I didn't see you before. Okay. So the auspicious qualities bestowed by bhakti. First, let's just see how did Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura gave this verse that one who loves all living entities and is loved by all living entities and happiness and all other good qualities. All these things are shubha, right? So now this is how Śrīla Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains. Here, the use of the word shubha, auspiciousness, implies a distaste for objects that cause misery and a thirst for that which is related to Bhagavan. So what is shubha? Shubha is a distaste for objects that cause misery and a thirst for that which is related to Bhagavan. That is shubha. It also implies kindness, anukulya, mercy, kripa, forgiveness, kshama, truthfulness, satya, simplicity, saralya, equality, samya, patience, dharya, gravity, gambhirya, the qualities of honoring others, manadattva, and not expecting respect, amanitva, all good fortune, sarva sobhagya, and other virtues. This is also understood from scriptural evidence such as yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat kinchana sarvar gunas tatra samasate sura. The demigods, with all their virtues, fully reside in that person who has selfless devotion to Bhagavan. That's Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12. So the demigods with all their virtues fully reside in that person who has selfless devotion to Bhagavan. Therefore, all these qualities reside in the devotees. Now we will read the commentary of my Srila Gurudev, the Piyush Varshini Vritti. The result of performing sadhan bhakti is that avidya and other types of misery, other types of klesh, as well as the different types of sin, such as prarabdha, are completely destroyed. And all types of good qualities manifest in the body of the devotee. Therefore, bhakti is said to be shubhada, as she bestows all auspiciousness. And then in Chaitanya Charitamrita, after this verse that was quoted here, yasyasti bhaktir bhagavata kinchana sarvar gunas tatra samasate sura, then Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami gives this verse to explain that verse. It says, Sarva maha gunagan vaishnava sharire Krishna bhakti Krishnir gun sakali sanchare. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 2275. So the meaning is, a multitude of exalted virtues reside in the body of a Vaishnav. All the transcendental qualities of Krishna are transmitted to his bhakta. All the transcendental qualities of Krishna are transmitted to his bhakta. So that's like when we see these different qualities of kindness, mercy, forgiveness, truthfulness, simplicity, equality, patience, gravity, all these different qualities, it's completely different from these qualities seen in mundane people. Because these are directly Krishna's qualities manifesting in the devotee. So this is like a complete, one is related to this world and one is completely, in the platform of Vaikuntha. So, Śrīla Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is mentioning a few of the auspicious qualities of those devotees in the stage of sadhan. Primarily, they have a distaste for anything that ultimately proves primarily. So these are the primary qualities of Shubha, is that they have a distaste for anything that ultimately proves to be a cause of sorrow. And they have a thirst for that which is related to Bhagavan. Those are the two primary things. Now, bhakti sadhaks, who, by engaging their senses in Krishna's service, have obtained even an infinitesimal relish for the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna, will naturally be disinterested in mundane forms, tastes, and so forth, which are causes of great suffering. Great suffering. To say nothing of insignificant mundane sense objects, even the happiness of impersonal liberation becomes insignificant for bhakti sadhaks. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the conversation outside. Krishna pada parma gandha jai jana pai, brahmaloka adi sukha tare nahi bhai. That's Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antyalila 6:136. For one who chances upon the fragrance of Krishna's lotus feet, the bliss available on such planets as Brahmaloka cannot satisfy him. Gradually, what time is it? Okay. Gradually, all the devotees' yearnings become centered on the worshipful lotus feet of Krishna. How can I serve and please my worshipful deity? This single thought arrests the sadhak's whole heart. When, by the mercy of Sri Bhakti Devi, the sadhak's heart becomes filled with moods that are entirely beneficial for Krishna, Krishnanukulya, an unprecedented beauty is fashioned in the temple of his heart. At that time, mercy, forgiveness, truthfulness, simplicity, equanimity, patience, gravity, respect, modesty, all blessedness, and other auspicious qualities arise in the sadhak's heart with exceptional clarity and shower their soothing rains of nectar upon it. At that time, a truly unprecedented calm prevails in the heart of the devotee. Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12 states, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatta kinchana sarvar gunaistatra samasate sura harav abhaktasya kuto mahar guna manorathena satidhavato bahi. In the heart of bhakti sadhaks who possess selfless devotion, nishkam bhakti for the lotus feet of Bhagavan, all the demigods, along with all virtuous qualities such as adherence to religious principles and knowledge, dwell perpetually. But in the case of those who are not devotees of Bhagavan, from where will the many qualities found in exalted personalities come? With a variety of material aspirations, they endlessly chase the petty attainments of the external world. Therefore, it is the Vaishnavas alone whose hearts are overflowing storehouses of all transcendental qualities. Sriman Mahaprabhu said to Śrīla Sanatana Goswami, She sab guna hoy Vaishnava lakhan, sab kaha na jai kori dig darshan, kripalu akrita droha satya sar sama, nirdosha vadanya mridu shuchi akinchana, sarvapakaraka shanta krishnaika sharan, akama nirihastira vijita shargunam, mittabhuk apramata manada amani, gambira karuna maitra kavi dakshamoni. This is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, verses 77 to 80. These are the 26 qualities of a Vaishnav. All these qualities are symptoms of a Vaishnav. There are too many to name, so I'll give you but a glimpse. Krishna's devotees are 1. Merciful, 2. Harmless, 3. The very essence of truth, 4. Equal to all, 5. Faultless, 6. Magnanimous, 7. Mild, 8. Clean, 9. Without worldly possessions, and 10. They engage in the welfare of all. They are 11. Peaceful, 12. Exclusively surrendered to Krishna. That's the most important of all these. 13. Selfless, 14. Indifferent to material acquisitions, 15. Fixed in devotional service, and 16, free from the influence of the 6 flaws of lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, and delusion. They are 17, they eat only as much as required, and 18, are not intoxicated by anything. They are 19, respectful, 20, do not expect any respect for themselves, and are 21, they are grave, and 22, compassionate. They are 23, friendly, 24, poetic, 25, expert, and 26, silent. What time is it? We still have a few minutes. I think we can finish this. Yeah, it's only a couple more paragraphs. Okay. The removal of inauspiciousness and the attainment of auspiciousness. This is text 4 of Madhurya Kadambini. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.42 states, as a surrendered person engages in bhajan, 3 effects manifest spontaneously in his heart. 1. Bhakti characterized by Shravan and Kirtan. 2. Direct experience of the Supreme Lord, Parameshwar. And 3. Detachment from that which is separate from Bhagavan. So that's according to Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.42. By this statement of scripture, one can understand that the previously described 2 leaves named Kleshagni and Shubhada, which appear on the vine of devotion, they sprout simultaneously. However, the removal of inauspiciousness and the attainment of auspiciousness occur in accordance with the degree to which the leaves manifest, either slightly or substantially. At the same time, there are exceedingly subtle. At the same time, there are exceedingly subtle, and thus not easily discernible, signs of development. Intelligent persons can detect these symptoms and thus ascertain a person's progress. Now the Piyush Varshini Vritti commentary. Previously, it was stated that sadhan bhakti, whether Vaidhi or Raganuga, is capable of destroying all varieties of inauspiciousness or misery, and awakening all auspicious qualities. Here, however, a doubt may arise as to how sadhan bhakti can simultaneously accomplish both. In answer to this, Śrīla Vishwanath Chakravarti Ṭhākura provides this verse as evidence. Bhakti pareshanu bhavo viraktir anyatra chaisha trika ekakala prapadyamanasya yatashnatashyus tushti pushti kshud apayo nughasam. That's Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.42. So that means while eating, a person simultaneously experiences 3 sensations with each and every morsel of food. He experiences satisfaction, that is, gratification or pleasure. He receives nourishment by consuming substances that sustain the force of life within him. And he gains relief from hunger. What's the Sanskrit for that? It's tushti. Tushti is satisfaction. Pushti, that's nourishment. And kshud apaya. That means his hunger, he gains relief from hunger. In the same way, a person who takes shelter of Bhagavan and engages in devotional service to him will, in his performance of bhajan, experience three things simultaneously at every moment. Pure love, prem for Bhagavan, realization of the identity, the swarup of his beloved Lord, and detachment from anything other than his Lord. Okay, that's the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. We just have 2 more paragraphs and then we're finished. So, thus, despite the fact that both leaves on the creeper of devotion, these 2 leaves, Kleshagni and Shubhada, although they sprout simultaneously, miseries such as avidya are removed and virtues manifest in proportion to the degree to which these leaves grow. Therefore, although this progression is certainly well defined, it is so subtle and difficult to perceive that it is not easily understood. The example is given of a person eating. With every morsel he takes, he simultaneously experiences satisfaction, nourishment, and satiation of hunger. However, we must understand that these 3 effects take place not only with each and every mouthful, but with each and every grain or particle of food. This is extremely difficult to observe, just as it is difficult to perceive progress in bhakti or bhajan. Therefore, although progress is very subtle and thus very extremely difficult for the lay person to discern, devotees with knowledge can, by observing a sadhak's activities and the symptoms he exhibits, discern the degree to which he has achieved the destruction of misery and attained auspicious qualities. And then in Madhura Kadambini, this is where it begins to explain Shraddha, faith, the awakening of Shraddha. An awakening of Shraddha, transcendental faith, is the first symptom that appears in those eligible to attain bhakti. Shraddha is unyielding faith in the statements of the devotional scriptures. A desire to perform the practices prescribed in those scriptures with special effort, respect, and care is also referred to as Shraddha. Moreover, these two types of Shraddha fall into two separate categories. One, naturally awakened, and two, forcibly induced by someone else. But anyways, that's how Madhura Kadambini continues on after this point. So that is our reading for today. I'll just do short Mahamantra, Jayadvani, and then if there's any points anybody wants to mention, you can mention. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai, Jai Shri Gurudev Ki Jai, Jai Shri Param Gurudev Ki Jai, Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai, Swaparsha Ji Gaur Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopikan Ki Jai, Shri Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Shri Jai Shri Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura Ki Jai, Jai Shri Bhakti-tattva-viveka Ki Jai, Jai Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Ṭhākura Ki Jai, Jai Shri Madhura Kadambini Ki Jai, Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Jai Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Jai Shri Rupa Goswami Pad Ki Jai, Jai Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Ki Jai, Jai Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Vrindai Tulsi Devai, Priyai Keshavashaja, Krishna Bhakti Padadevi, Satyavatai Namo Namaha. Pancha Kalpatarubhyashta, Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams, Niri Hari Prabhu, Bhavatarani Mataji, Archana Mataji, Anadi Krishna Prabhu, Gokuleshwari Didi, Sarveshwari Mataji, Vidya Lalasa Didi, Puleshwari Didi, Raseshwari Mataji. I'm guessing Indira Mataji is there. Wait. Yeah, Ganga Mataji, Prajumna Prabhu, Mantramurti Mataji, Shubhananda Prabhu, Gaur Priya Didi, my dear brother Krishna Murari. I already said Vidyalalasa Didi, right? And Pramila Didi, Shasharamaji, and a bunch of other devotees. There are 10 devotees there on YouTube and Facebook. Also pranams to all the devotees watching in the future. Pranams. All right, yeah. So towards the end of the reading, like towards the last part of the reading, I had a difficult time focusing because I'll just mention it briefly. Last night, yesterday was Govinda Ghosh's disappearance day, right? And we were reading about how Gopinath does the pinda for Govinda Ghosh in, where is it? In Agrodweep, was it? And the brahmachari who I live in, like in this little ashram here, Subal Saka, he was supposed to go with somebody to Agrodweep at 8:30 p.m. And so he got dressed up in his like new clothes and everything like that, and he got all ready to go out. And we waited there till 9:30 p.m. And the person never came. And Sewell didn't have his number. And so then I just towards like the end of the reading, that person just came this morning, and then there was like a little bit of a, I don't know, they were both kind of speaking really loud voices, and so I was like half listening to what they were saying when I was reading it, so I wasn't able to give full attention. I couldn't help it because it's like really loud right outside my door. Um, anyhow, so are there any points? Oh, Haribol Bangsiwala Prabhu. Are there any points that anybody wants to mention?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I
Yes,
just
Mataji.
I just want to know if there is anything mentioned about how to transit from the rough side to the smooth side of the leaf.
I mean, okay, this is just my idea, but you can go on performing Vaidhi Bhakti all the way, and it will never turn into Raganuga Bhakti, right? Like, just perform Vaidhi Bhakti and eventually attain Vaikuntha, Lakshmi Narayan. But we also have to engage in Vaidhi Bhakti. We can't jump to Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti starts at a very high stage, you know? I think it starts from Ruchi, is like when you start engaging in Raganuga Bhakti. And so we engage in Vaidhi Bhakti, but it's a different kind of Vaidhi Bhakti. I mean, I haven't really heard it explained exactly like this, but this is just how I've understood it, is that we perform Vaidhi Bhakti, but it's different than just Vaidhi, like normal Vaidhi Bhakti. But our Vaidhi Bhakti is, we always keep this, um, this objective of wanting to enter into Raganuga Bhakti. So it's, and we have to be with, you know, yeah, constantly having that aim and object, and especially hearing from Vaishnavas who do have this rag. And then that, I mean, that's how this rag develops, right? Is when that's what is explained in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. When we hear the, about the activities and pastimes of Krishna and his associates, and that's also what's explained in in Bhakti and Upadeshamrita also, right? That yeah, my mind's not so focused right now, but yeah. So yeah, that's the difference is that we engage in Vaidhi Bhakti, but we always have to be all these prayers of Srila Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, of Srila Rupa Goswami, so many, all the in the songbook, they're all, and all these prayers we're praying to be able to come to this level of Raganuga Bhakti. So if we sincerely sing these prayers and we engage in our practice of Vaidhi Bhakti with that aim, then it will eventually transform into Raganuga Bhakti by the mercy of a Rasik Vaishnav. I don't know. That's that's the
Thank
short
you,
answer.
Prabhu. Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
And what's that verse? Tanama Rupa Charitari Sakirtamana, right? That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. All right.
Very hope-giving.
Yes. All right. Is there any other points anybody wants to mention? All right. So tomorrow we will read the rest of this chapter 3 of Bhakti-tattva-viveka about Moksha Lagutta-krit Sudurlabha Sandarananda Visheshatma and Krishna Karshini. And then after that, I think we'll finish that chapter tomorrow. And then the day after that, we will, what's the very last chapter is, I think, like how to enter into this bhakti, or what's the qualifications to enter into bhakti? What is it? Let's see. An analysis of the qualification for bhakti. And that's how the book ends. So thank you so much for joining, everybody. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. And Haribo Ashray Tattva. Yes, Nari Hari Prabhu. Haribo.
We want to thank you from us and that they are Danda Pranams to you and all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis.
Dandavat pranams, Nari Hari
Now and
Prabhu.
in the future.
Haribo,
Thank you.
Dandavat pranams. I think everybody here feels blessed to have the association of such senior devotees like you and Bhavatarani Mataji, recipients of Srila Prabhupada's mercy. So, yes. Thank you.
You are.
Haribol, Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Very well.
Haribol. Dhanyavad pranams.